This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. It is a balmy 76 degrees at our studios in Bath, New York today, but that isn't the case for much of the nation. Temperatures are soaring in the nation's midsection. This mom trying to keep her kids cool in Oklahoma.
We stay in the shade, lots of hydration, a lot of water.
CBS meteorologist David Parkinson.
More than 60 million people impacted, and that includes places like Kansas City, St. Louis, down to Memphis, just to name a few. Your feels-like temperatures in all of those cities, 105 to 110 degrees today.
The heat rolls east as the week moves on. We'll break 90 by Thursday. Fran Trujillo runs Trujillo Medical.
Wear hats, wear sunblock, make sure that you wear light clothing as opposed to darker clothing, and also look for shade.
We dip back into the 80s Saturday and Sunday as the rain rolls in. Kevin has your forecast in a few minutes. Now to Washington. The White House is releasing 230,000 pages of records linked to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. CBS reporter Michael Wallace.
The Office of the Director of National Intelligence says the more than 230,000 pages had never been digitized and were collecting dust in facilities across the government. The records include internal FBI memos about potential leads and the progress agents were making, and CIA records on the search for assassin James Earl Ray. King's family had a chance to review the documents 2 weeks ago. They believe a conspiracy involving government agencies was behind the assassination, and Ray was set up.
Hunter Biden has released a podcast giving his thoughts on the 1-year anniversary of the date his dad dropped out of the presidential race last year. Hunter taking aim at President Trump's immigration policies.
They figured out a way to get here because they thought that they could give themselves and their family a better chance. And he's somehow convinced all of us that these people are the criminals.
The White House responded. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Clearly, they've learned nothing from President Trump's overwhelming victory on November 5th. The American people want deportations. They want secure borders.
Hunter Biden also addressing his father's struggle on the debate stage.
We finally beat Medicare.
Asserting that the president's use of the sleep aid Ambien played a role.
He's 81 years old. You give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
At the White House today, the Philippine president is meeting with President Trump. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will be trying to hammer out a trade deal before the August 1st tariff deadline. The meeting also comes as tensions between the Philippines and China are high, primarily due to competing claims in the South China Sea. China has barred 2 Americans, a Wells Fargo banker and a U.S. Patent and Trademark Office employee, from leaving the country. CBS's Anna Corin is in Hong Kong.
These barrings come at a very precarious moment in the U.S. and China relationship. We know there's a trade war ongoing, so these cases further complicate these negotiations.
Gaza's health ministry says dozens of Palestinians were killed on Sunday following an attack on people waiting for United Nations food supply trucks yesterday. It comes amid reports that more than 1,000 people have been killed since the latest round of aid distribution began in March. NBC's Matt Bradley.
According to officials, yesterday was the deadliest day of these aid distribution sites, and not just for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that U.S. and Israeli-backed group, but also for United Nations aid distribution, and that is where this latest incident occurred.
Bradley reports thousands more people could leave central Gaza soon.
The Israelis are continuing to expand their operations in the Gaza Strip. They're issuing a sprawling new evacuation order just around the northern part, or in the central part of the Gaza Strip, that will see what looks like tens of thousands of people once again displaced from their homes.
And remembering Malcolm Jamal Warner. Red flag warnings are on the beach today where Warner drowned while on vacation with his family in Costa Rica. He's best known for his role as Theo Huxtable for 8 seasons on The Cosby Show. At its peak, 60 million people tuned in every Thursday night.
How did you like the real world?
Well, it's a lot tougher than I thought it was. But you know what?
so am I.
He landed that role when he was 14 years old.
This show has given me a wonderful opportunity to be able to grow and to be able to kind of show what I can do.
The 54-year-old was pulled out to sea by a strong current this week, and when he was saved, he had no vital signs. He reflected on the Today Show recently what it was like to have childhood fame.
I've got my head on straight, my soul and dignity is intact. Like, I've had a really wonderful journey.
His last message on Instagram, a reminder to those who are struggling.
Just wanted to remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile.
Still to come on the Noon Report, 8 Days of Hope is in Kerrville, Texas. The New York State Education Department changing graduation rules, and free care for pets for the elderly in Pennsylvania. Those stories next.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Another beautiful and comfortable day today, but summer heat is just a day away. Forecast details are coming up in 10.
Thank you, Kevin. Checking the stories, making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Buffalo-based Christian aid relief group 8 Days of Hope is now on the ground in flooded Kerrville, Texas.
There's still 3 people who are missing, 3 loved ones of family members. And so our heavy equipment is just one of 2 sets of heavy equipment being used right now, working with the local search and rescue teams, the cadaver dogs, using sonar, doing all the things that you do to try to bring closure to these families.
More than 100 people were killed there after the Guadalupe River flooded July 4th. 8 Days of Hope CEO Stephen Tiber spoke with WBEN.
Every night we get our directions for the next day. I know that yesterday they worked about 11 hours, thought they had maybe had some success, but that wasn't to be. They're back at it again today. Also, our feeding team, there's still some first responders and volunteers from around the country. They need to eat. And so our mass feeding team, they're making 900 meals every session to provide food to those, to give them the protein and the energy to serve. So the fight continues, and we're going to be there until we're not needed.
8 Days of Hope is also doing a Niagara District outreach program this week, painting homes, putting on new roofs and windows, fixing porches, and doing carpentry work in Buffalo. You can learn more about their work at 8daysofhope.com. The New York State Education Department is looking to do more than Regents test to determine if a student has grasped lessons to graduate from high school. It's a program called Portrait of a Graduate. Hilbert College interim president Michael Cornell spoke with WBEN.
As someone who has long believed in the priority of educating the whole child, it's a step in the right direction that is kind of a long time in coming.
The proposal will blend academic mastery with essential life skills. That means no testing. Instead, graduation requirements will vary depending on the child's strengths.
Sometimes it's portfolios, sometimes it's debates, sometimes it's an essay, sometimes it's creating a short film. There's all kinds of ways assessing kids in ways that are consistent with the way the world exchanges information and kind of talks about the issues that we face.
Cornell says teachers have been doing this for decades. It's just never replaced the Regents exams until now. Retired Regent Bob Bennett also likes the idea.
There are very few things in the real world. Once a kid hits the age of 23 or 24, there are no more paper and pencil tests, no more murky rubrics that determine whether they're proficient or not. You know, success in the world is determined by many, many more things than what somebody might put on a piece of paper. Human interaction, the ability to access information, judge its veracity, test it for bias, draw effective conclusions, take right action based on those conclusions, reassess your conclusions and your actions when new information comes available, which happens every single day. Like, those are critical human skills, and they're not easily tested in a multiple choice format. So this type of a movement towards emphasizing other more authentic assessments that assess kids in real-world ways makes all the sense in the world.
The state plans to adopt this in November with additional requirements in 2027. Now to Pennsylvania, new laws are bringing changes to the PA lottery and specialized courts that focus on rehabilitation. Two bills were just signed into law. House Bill 1058 strengthens the Pennsylvania lottery, allowing it to compete more effectively with other forms of entertainment. And Senate Bill 474 helps convicted criminals get mental health treatment or substance abuse treatment. The hope is to reduce reoffenders. There are new concerns in the Keystone State over West Nile virus. Family Life's Jeremy Miller files this report.
Yes, Sarah, state officials say mosquitoes carrying West Nile virus are spreading across the Commonwealth. The Department of Environmental Protection says the virus has been detected in more than half of the counties in PA. The CDC says most people do not develop symptoms after a bite from a West Nile carrier, but severe illness is possible. The DEP recommends wearing long sleeves when mosquitoes are most active. At dawn and dusk, wear repellent and dispose of any standing water on your property. Jeremy Miller, Family Life News.
And a new program is providing free veterinary care to pets of aging seniors in the Meals on Wheels program in Pennsylvania. Employees traveling to seniors' homes found many were not able to provide adequate vet care for their pets, like the case of Gino, the 14-year-old terrier mix whose owner had advanced dementia.
He was not able to hold his head up. He was completely just flat out weak, suffering, covered in mats.
The effort sparked a new collaboration. Meals on Wheels, Interloca, and Blue Chip are now providing homebound seniors free vet care for their pets, including medical treatment and transportation. Lindsay Skripka is the executive director of Meals on Wheels of Northeastern Pennsylvania. She spoke with WNEP.
We saw older adults living on a fixed income, limited resources, having to share their meals that we were giving with their pets so that their pets wouldn't go hungry.
So far, they've helped 80 animals that are companions to the elderly.
Those folks who are sometimes would be entirely alone aren't because they have animals. I believe that Gino's person was one of those people.
Find out more by connecting with Meals on Wheels in Northeastern Pennsylvania. Still to come on the Noon Report, a close-up look at the crushing blow Planned Parenthood was delivered by the U.S. Supreme Court last month. Our own Bob Price sits down with Focus on the Family attorney Nicole Hunt. That interview next.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Historian and philosopher Will Durant, author of the epic 11-volume series The Story of Civilization, famously said this: "From barbarism to civilization requires a century. From civilization to barbarism needs but a day." Civilizations, historically speaking, do rise and fall. Our museums and history books are full of legends and artifacts from once dominant civilizations that are now reduced to ruins. These were all, at some point, detached from the ideals, the institutions, and the activities that originally gave them life and led them to flourish. But now, they are no more. With all due respect to Durant, the turn to barbarism might be quick, but civilizations do not collapse overnight. Rather, most reach a critical moment from which they do not recover. In the new documentary Truth Rising, scheduled for release Friday, September the 5th, author and social critic Os Guinness describes how and why the West has now reached this civilizational moment. Recently, I interviewed Os Guinness and asked him to explain what this means, especially for Christians. Here's Oz.
Well, back of the idea is the sort of biblical sense of time, generation, year, day, hour, moment, and the challenge of reading the signs of the times, or our Lord's weeping over Jerusalem because, quote, they missed God's moment when they came.
Wow.
I've always had a sense we need to understand the times. Now, civilizational moment, some people are misusing it as a fancy word for the present moment. No, it has a real definition. A civilizational moment is that period, not a day, a period when a civilization loses touch with what made it great. And when that happens, it really faces three broad choices. Either it must renew the civilization, or replace it with an equally adequate one, or decline and fall. Now, clearly, our Western civilization is a Christian civilization owes a lot to the Greeks and the Romans, but its principal source is the gospel rooted in Judaism. The intended replacement was the Enlightenment. In other words, many of the same Christian truths, but without God, without the Bible, reason and progress without God. And that has failed. And that's why we're at this civilizational moment. Either there's a renewal of the Christian faith, or the West is declining and will fall.
So why Truth Rising? Why now? Why another work that identifies this civilizational moment? I asked Oz these questions, and here's how he replied.
But I think the difference now is there's a widespread sense. It's not just Europe. It's not just America. The whole world is now entangled, embroiled in this civilizational moment as the West declines. So this is an extraordinary moment which calls out the deepest understanding that all of us can bring. And there's nothing deeper than the gospel, than the scriptures. And that's why this is such an exciting moment for Christians.
Truth Rising explains both this civilizational moment and also how Christians can be people of courage and agents of renewal in this time and place. Don't miss the global streaming premiere of Truth Rising, Friday, September the 5th. Visit truthrising.com/Colson. That's truthrising.com/Colson to sign up for updates. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. And for a version of this commentary that you can print out or share with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for this afternoon. Stays very comfortable. Sunshine, mixed clouds. High temps 70s to near 80. Tonight turns out clear and comfortable. Low temps generally 50s. But for tomorrow and Thursday, sunny, turning much warmer and also more humid over time. High temperatures tomorrow will range in the 80s. High temperatures on Thursday, mid-80s to the mid-90s. Showers and rumbles, they come back for Friday.
All right, Kevin, I am your host, Sarah Harnish, and this is the Noon Report on Family Life. On deck next, a conversation with Nicole Hunt at Focus on the Family about an important Supreme Court decision last month. It was a crushing blow to Planned Parenthood and a huge win for pro-lifers. Here's Family Life's Bob Price.
Explain the significance of this Medina versus Planned Parenthood decision in South Carolina.
Yeah, so as you said, it truly is a significant victory for the pro-life movement. So the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of South Carolina's plan to defund Planned Parenthood. Now, what makes it so significant is that really it creates a blueprint or a pathway for other states to potentially implement this similar model legislation so that they too can defund Planned Parenthood in their state. And it actually creates a model for Congress as well. Should they be able to come to agreement, they could finally stop using taxpayer dollars to subsidize Planned Parenthood. And it's something that we saw in the reconciliation bill that was passed. Planned Parenthood will be defunded for 1 year, but this is a way that Congress can defund it permanently.
Yeah, and just in case you're starting to feel sorry for the nation's largest abortion provider, this is an organization, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars they've been getting every year from the federal government, but can you kind of guesstimate what that is, Nicole?
Yes, so statistics say that it's around $400 million just in Medicaid reimbursements. And what that does, right, is it allows Medicaid recipients to go to Planned Parenthood. They don't get abortions at the Planned Parenthood with that subsidized money, but it subsidizes Planned Parenthood's ability to sell abortions in other ways. And so this is a very significant hit. In fact, we're hearing that out of several states, they have Planned Parenthoods that are talking about closing up shop because they won't be able to get that funding from the government.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question. Even where we broadcast up here in the Northeast, very left of center Northeast, New York State, for instance, the largest Planned Parenthood in New York City is shutting down. Nicole, do you think this will spell the beginning of the end of Planned Parenthood?
I think think this is a very key component, because we all know that they've been living off of taxpayer dollars. Even though federal law says that they won't give money for abortions, this is the workaround that they've been able to finagle. And let's be honest, it's also subsidizing their ability to lobby and to try to pass abortion amendments all across the country. So when you cut this federal funding from Planned Parenthood, it cuts not only their ability to provide services, it cuts their ability to support candidates who support abortion and to go on campaign efforts to try to constitutionalize abortion in all 50 states.
Yeah.
So it's going to have wide-reaching implications, that's for sure.
Yeah, this 6-3 decision from the High Court upholds South Carolina's law that would prevent Medicaid dollars from going to Planned Parenthood. How many other states does this impact?
It will impact the ones that are leaning more conservative already. For those that have the political will to do it, and I'm not sure of the exact number, but I know that there were a few who were walking down this road. They really were waiting to see what would happen in the South Carolina case.
Yeah, I do remember something called the Hyde Amendment from years ago, which prevented taxpayer dollars from being used to fund abortions. Why did it take a Supreme Court ruling here to codify that amendment into law?
Yeah, really, it's a workaround. So they're saying, well, this money isn't actually going to fund an abortion. It's going to do STD testing or a pap smear or, some other type of medical service that a woman might seek. But it was providing that funding to Planned Parenthood and in a covert way, funneling that money so that Planned Parenthood could continue to promote abortion.
Attorney and Focus on the Family Life Issues analyst Nicole Hunt, our guest today, talking about this important 6-3 decision in favor of South Carolina's plan to defund Planned Parenthood. Let me play devil's advocate for a moment, Nicole. A lot of people would say, yeah, Planned Parenthood does abortions, but they do a lot of other things too, like breast cancer screening for women. Won't that hurt women's health in that area? What do you say to those people who raise those concerns?
Yeah, what I would say is that there's actually a lot of community clinics that are out there that some of them are pro-life, some of them are just providing services to folks who would be Medicaid recipients and need that help. And instead of sending those Medicaid recipients to Planned Parenthood, they're going to be redirected to other agencies and other organizations, including some of our own pro-life pregnancy resource centers who offer some of those services. I know here in Colorado, we've got a health clinic that is pro-life and is doing all kinds of those services. And so what we're doing is we're redirecting these patients to clinics and to facilities who are going to make sure that they have health and that they know what all of their options are, not be pressured into seeking an abortion if and when that time comes.
Gotcha. As you know, being on the front lines of this, that the next fight in this battle to preserve life is not so much the abortion clinic, but it's these mail order abortifacients that are being sent to women all over the country. I know in New York State we have this thing called the SHIELD law. There's litigation right now. A woman in Texas who had received abortifacients through the mail, and now the state of New York is protecting that abortion doctor who violated Texas law. A lot of what Planned Parenthood does now when it comes to abortion is through these abortion kill pills. Laws like the New York SHIELD Act. We're hearing that the U.S. Supreme Court may rule on these laws as well. Do you anticipate a favorable ruling in that case should it get to the High Court?
I'm hopeful, actually, that we will see, again, what I refer to as just kind of that more conservative judicial philosophy. And so I think that there is a lot that we can be hopeful for when it comes to the 6 more judicially conservative justices on the Supreme Court, because they do, and again, it's not a political affiliation, it's more of a philosophical and ideological understanding that we ought to protect what the Constitution established when it comes to federalism and the separation of powers and the very specific role of the judiciary.
Gotcha.
So I'm hopeful that we're going to see justices that lean more towards respecting federalism, the separation of powers, not only between the states and the federal government, but between each state.
Yeah. One final question, then we'll let you go. You've been very kind with your time today, Nicole. We talk about Planned Parenthood, but one of the concerns we see is how Planned Parenthood is reinventing itself as it's losing on the abortion front. It's now looking more into the sex change operation arena and providing services to young people, minors even, who suffer from gender dysphoria. Is there anything being done legislatively or through the courts to clamp down on this new, I hate to use the phrase, but for lack of a better term, marketplace for Planned Parenthood to perform sex change operations and prescribe chemical castration pills and whatever to minors who are now facing this LGBTQ agenda everywhere we look now?
I'm so glad you brought that up because it is such an important topic of the day. And truly, the Supreme Court had just an incredible year in delivering wins for parents and for the pro-life community. But one of the cases that they decided also this past June is called the United States v. Skermeti case, and it's about a Tennessee law that banned transgender mutilation of minors. Well, of course, the ACLU sued on behalf of the trans community, and this case was also issued this last month, and it was a 6-3 decision again in favor of Tennessee's law banning transgender mutilation of minors. And again, it was a very significant win for children and for families and just for common sense policymaking. So I know for certain that's going to impact Planned Parenthood because guess what? Planned Parenthood is not going to be able to offer those services and they're not going to be able to mutilate children in Tennessee. And in the same way that the pro-life law was an example of how other states can do the same thing, this law in Tennessee is also model legislation for how other states can go ahead and move forward with laws that protect children from this gender mutilation.
Yeah. Been in news a long time. I don't remember a summer session that had so many favorable 6-3 rulings as we had this year. It was a good year for pro-lifers at the Supreme Court. Would you agree?
Oh, I certainly would. I was praising God every single day for each win and each victory. And I just want to encourage your listeners, while we praise God, we also continue to work hard because we must be consistent in explaining our values because the law is a teacher, and I'm glad that the Supreme Court is ruling in the right way, but we want to change culture. So we want to make this unthinkable. We want to make abortion unthinkable. We want to make gender mutilation of minors unthinkable. So we need to continue the good work of having these conversations and talking about it in a way that we're not embarrassed to because we're standing up for what's right.
That's Nicole Hunt with Focus on the Family. You can find the full interview online anytime at familylife.org. Just click on podcasts. Let's get one last check of weather with Kevin Williams.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. High pressure parked right over us has been bringing us the very lovely and comfortable conditions of late. As that high moves off the New England coast tomorrow, though, the winds will turn southerly, and that will begin quickly a trend toward more summer heat and humidity. But for this afternoon, easy peasy, stays very comfortable. Sunshine, mixed clouds, high temps 70s to near 80. Tonight turns out clear and comfortable. Low temps generally 50s. But for tomorrow and Thursday, sunny, turning much warmer and also more humid over time. High temperatures tomorrow will range in the 80s. High temperatures on Thursday, mid-80s to the mid-90s. Showers and rumbles, they come back for Friday.
Hey, it'll cool down this weekend, too. Finally, at noon, time is running out for anyone who wants to name a Salt City snowplow. Syracuse residents can submit their most creative names for the city's snowplow fleet before Friday's deadline. The selections will be made public once all of the names are gathered. To pitch your idea, go to syr.gov/snowplow. Syracuse reclaimed the coveted Golden Snowball Award this year for getting the most snow among the 5 largest upstate cities. I know it's almost 80 out there right now and 90 by Thursday, but we have to prepare for the winter. The state of Minnesota runs the same contest as Syracuse. Famous snowplow names they have come up with include We're Off to See the Blizzard, Plowabunga, Catch My Drift, Little Plow on the Prairie, Sub-Zero Hero, A Little Salty, You're Welcome, Don't You Snow, and I Came, I Thaw, and I Conquered. Just some ideas. And that's the world that we live in for Tuesday, the 22nd of July. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is Family Life News.
You've been listening to The Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.